Hello. Hello, everyone. Good evening to you. And can you see and hear me? Tell me you see and hear me. Yes, I'm happy to have you here too, Molly and Lisa and Christine and Annie. And can you hear me? Somebody tell me you can hear me before we have this nightmare of no sound, no video. Hello, hello. Okay, good. And you can see me too? It's all good? Okay. Fantastic. Okay. Good. All right. Well, welcome everybody to Hangout number 11. 11 Hangouts already. This is kind of fun. And I'm going to start off something very important. First, I want to thank everyone who's here who is clearly supporting the channel. And we have some new folks who are supporting the channel. And I really appreciated that after I gave my kind of like, please support the channel because they're demonetizing me. And I'm really jealous of some people out there. I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Mike. Has anybody seen Dr. Mike? Hey. I'm going to say stank for the first word. Hi. Hey there. Dr. Mike, has anybody ever watched him? He makes $600,000 a month. And he's great. I mean, this is the whole thing. You know, one of the things you start doing when you do your own channel is you start appreciating how much effort is put in. And Dr. Mike, no, he's funny as heck. He discusses, he tears apart a lot of television shows, any kind of medical show, and he's so funny. He just says, "Oh no, don't do that." And he explains what a doctor should really do. He's a real doctor, and he's brilliant, and he's funny, and very good looking. Let me tell you, very good looking. So check him out, Dr. Mike. He's one of the top YouTubers, but he's really, really good. So hats off to him. Another person I really like is Lily Singh. And Lily Singh is just very, very funny. She made like 7 million last year because she's super, super funny. She's Canadian, born in Ontario. Her parents are from Punjab, India. So she does a lot of India stuff, which I really can relate to, especially since I've been to India and I've been to Punjab. But she also does just a lot of regular stuff about life and a lot of stuff about teenagers. She's now not a teenager, but teenagers, young people. And even though I'm older, she's just a riot. She's really, really good. So I highly recommend Lily Singh as well. So I just want to let you know. So I'm not jealous of all YouTubers. I mean, I think they do really good work and they deserve what they're achieving, because I know they're putting in a tremendous amount of effort. But I am a little upset about, if you read my Facebook page, that while I'm working to get this channel going, some guy got 1.5 million views for a piece of bread that he said, watch, dramatic bread falling over. And he got 1.5 million views. So tonight, I just want you to share this with all your friends. So here's my bread. And okay, it's really cool. Watch. It's very dramatic. Oh my God. Is it going to fall? Is it not going to fall? Is it going to fall? It has fallen. Okay, share that with your friends. 1.5 million friends. Help the channel out. Help the channel out. Okay. So that's that. I'm going to also do a really quick public service announcement just for people, because recently I have another relative who and his wife who both got nailed with coronavirus, and they're both fine now. But, when they first got it, the question was, first of all, do I have it? And then, am I breathing okay? And I want to let anybody know, this is quick. This is called a quick view home test. It looks just like a pregnancy test. When you do it, you're like, oh, I'm pregnant. Oh, no, I'm not. Or thank God I'm not. I don't have coronavirus. But it's $20. You can buy it at CVS. It's just good to know, because sometimes when you try, like, let's say you're around somebody you're really worried about, somebody around you is sick, or you start to feel really weird, and maybe you're just not ready to go in, or you can't get an appointment to get a check. $20 from CVS. Just worth having around, in case you freak out one day. And it's got 2 tests in it, so it's a good price. And then if you're worried about your breathing, I bought this little guy. Okay, so you put your finger in here, and then you press this thing, and it's supposed to tell your oxygen level. And well, there you go. See how well it works? So far my oxygen level has been below dead, and I pulse. What the? Oh, now I'm 94. That's not very good. And I have 111 pulse. Really? Okay. That's going back to Amazon. Want my $20 back? Okay, I don't believe that one. But it's a great idea to have one of those if it works. Just mine is just not working. No, that wasn't banana bread. That was Christine's asking me about the bread. No, that's just rye bread from the health food store. So and Lisa says, "Oh wow, he is good looking." The dude that's Dr. Right. I got the right name now, right? Good looking dude. Yes, he really is good looking. Yeah. So it doesn't. You're like, oh, I don't even care what you're saying. Just keep talking. And for the guys, Lily Singh is very, very attractive. So there you go. I'm fair. And for the ladies who like ladies, Lily Singh is beautiful. Okay. So there. All right. So that's my totally. Hi, Michelle. You finally made it, and you missed the beginnings of this show, but I'm glad you're here. So I have a bunch of stuff to talk about and questions I asked you about who you think the smartest serial killer is, and I have my thoughts, and I'll be getting to that. Annie says, right on, Pat. Check her out, Lily Singh. Okay, so I have to talk about Alec Baldwin because that has been rolling around in the news. And the question is, if you don't know by now, actor Alec Baldwin was on the set, and the guy who handles the props handed him a gun and said it was cold. Cold meaning it's not loaded, or it's loaded with blanks. It's not gonna hurt anybody. It's safe. So Alec Baldwin, for reasons unknown, held that gun up. There was no reason. He wasn't actually involved in the actual acting at that point, like part of the script. He just somewhere and held it up toward the director and the cameraman and pulled the trigger and shot two people, and one of them a woman who died. So now the question comes down to, who is responsible? Do we call this just an accident, or is this a case of involuntary manslaughter? So what is involuntary manslaughter? That's when you do something reckless but without malice, and you didn't intend to kill anybody, but your recklessness got somebody killed. And indeed, the recklessness was there. Now, the prop guy, that's his job, is to not to make sure everything is safe. And they hired this guy on the set. I don't understand it because he'd already been thrown off already from, I don't know, a different set. He'd been fired for being really crappy at his job and not doing the job and making things safe. So why would you hire this guy back? Who's responsible for bringing this bozo back on? But here, no, Lisa says, "Oh, I thought it was while shooting a scene." No, it wasn't. And that's a good question. Why? What was happening then? So, but here is the unfortunate point for anybody. You're working and somebody says it's not loaded and hands you a weapon. You don't take their word for it, because once that weapon is in your hands, you are the handler of that weapon. Everything that happens from the moment that weapon gets into your hands is your fault. Your fault. So, with the old thing, oh, I didn't know the gun went off. No gun goes off. You shoot the gun. You carelessly shot the gun, perhaps, and weren't aware that the gun was going to go off, or you didn't realize the gun was loaded when it went off. There's just a simple, basic rule, and I think anybody who's going to handle any kind of weapon, even on an acting set, even in a movie set, if you're going to put your little hands on something that looks like a gun, you should be taking a course in gun safety. That should happen before you do anything else. I feel very strongly about that because I do own a gun. And I did take the course. As a matter of fact, not only did I take the basic NRA course, I also went down and took the course from Masad Ayub. I did 1 week in North Carolina. He's a police instructor, and I did 8 hours a day for 5 days with Masad Ayub. And boy, did he drill it into your head about your responsibility with that weapon. And it's very simple. The basic simple thing about a weapon is you never point the weapon at anything you don't want to see go dead. That's it. You never point the weapon at anybody, any animal, any location where you're not intending to shoot. So that's the rule. Period. There's no playing around with it. Oh, look at this gun. And look, I'll just hold it up and point it at your head. No, you never ever point a weapon at anything you're not planning to possibly shoot for a good reason. Like the door is being broken down by a home invader. You're aiming at the door because the door is being broken down. Somebody's kicking it in. You hear the voices on the other side. This shouldn't be police because you shouldn't be running like a drug operation in your house, a crack house or something. But the intention should be, I'm about to pull the trigger because and there's only one reason you ever pull a trigger under those circumstances, and that is because you believe if you don't pull the trigger, that you will be dead. That's it. That's the only answer. If I don't pull this trigger, I will be dead. Therefore, I'd rather go to court and be, have a jury convict me or not convict me than be in a box. So you never point a weapon unless you're planning to pull the trigger, or you're willing to pull that trigger, and you're only willing to pull it because you think you're going to be dead in 3 seconds flat. And the only other time you're going to be holding a gun in your hand is when you're cleaning it or doing target shooting. When you're cleaning it, you have to make very sure of where you're aiming. I live on a cement slab. I can clean a gun and point downward toward the floor because the bullet has no place to go except into the cement slab. But if I point over here, I'm cleaning my gun and I'm pointing over here. My daughter lives on the other side of that wall. We have 2 houses put together. If I do that, I can kill my granddaughter if it goes off. So you don't do that. You don't point at any place that you don't know what the bullet can hit. You could be out in the yard, you pull that trigger and it goes into the neighbor's house. Somebody's getting out of the car and you shoot them. Only time you pull the trigger is if you're on a range and you're aiming at targets which have been put in a location where there is nothing behind that target that you can possibly kill. So that Alec Baldwin accepted the weapon, didn't check it himself, and that is your responsibility. I don't care. I'm sorry. Check it yourself. Have somebody stand next to you and check it with you. But once it's in your hands, it's your responsibility. And then you turn and point it at people on the set and pull that trigger. My opinion is he should get nailed for involuntary manslaughter. I don't believe he should walk on this one because he should have been responsible to know that he had to do that. And if he didn't, too bad, buddy. You know what I mean? You should have known. And so I find that really, really, really upsetting because let's see what Michelle says. This is not Alec's first rodeo. He's handled guns in films before. Alec couldn't be taking someone's word for it that it's a cold gun. That's gun safety 101. Absolutely. I can't imagine somebody saying, "Oh, look, there's no bullets in this gun." Really? No, no, you don't do that kind of thing. And you don't point it at anything, including yourself, if you don't want to, get something killed. It's just outrageous. And this is the kind of stuff that happens. And then, people say, "Oh, you shouldn't own a gun." Well, I'm sorry, but I don't like the thought of something coming up my driveway and I have absolutely nothing I can do about it because I have no way to protect myself. I have a lizard, 2 mice, and a toad. They're not going to do much good for me. So I got to do something for myself. But my gun is safe. Oh, and I'm very, very strong about gun safety as far as storing a gun in the safe and only having the gun out of the safe when it's, you're totally in control of that weapon. There's a lot of things to go with that, but if you allow access to that weapon to a child, I think you should go to prison. That's my opinion. If a child goes into your house and takes your gun out of your drawer and shoots another child, you should go to prison because you're not in control of that gun. And therefore, you're responsible for everything that happens to it. And the only time you're not is if somebody actually literally steals your weapon. In that case, a crime has been committed and the gun has been removed from your possession illegally. Then I get it. You can't be held responsible for that. But if you're just leaving that gun lying around the house, sorry, you're responsible for what happens to it. So I feel very strongly about that. So I just wanted to say that this evening. And the second thing I wanted to mention this evening was this article. And I thought this was just really, really interesting. It's an article about a guy by the name of Barenbaum. Anyway, apparently he killed his wife and threw her out of her plane. And but here's what interests me. So he killed his wife, and now he's been convicted of it. But it took many, many years. But we're talking about Gabby Petito and about domestic abuse, and that we don't, we need to do more about domestic abuse. It's just, we've got to do more about domestic abuse because women are getting, and some men are getting, abused and beaten and murdered. Well, anyway, so this guy, but here's a story of this. This is what drives me crazy. And I think it's very important. The one thing, if we're going to get anything across for domestic abuse, this is what we have to get across. So anyway, so this guy hooks up with the woman he threw out of the plane. So it seems like a magical romance. Oh, yes, magical. At first, the romance seemed magical, says Katz's sister, Aileen, an attorney in New York State. But there were red flags. Always are red flags. There's never no red flags. She said she went on a strange double date at a sushi restaurant where Barenbaum shoved food into her sister's mouth, then tried to do the same with her. That's kind of aggressive and not very nice. So you might say, geez, that's kind of, that's not okay. But it gets worse. Aileen Katz also said her sister called her one day, hysterically crying, because Barenbaum tried to drown her cat in the toilet of their Upper East Side apartment. No, I should ask them to do something about that cat. No, the bad cat in my house. But I've never tried to drown my cat in the toilet. So she calls up her sister, hysterical, that he tried to drown her cat. And so she said, no, Aileen, we're going to get rid of the cat. And then everything's going to be fine because he's going to believe that I love him. And her sister says, I'm like, no, not really. You really have to get rid of Bob. Oh my God, yes, you needed to get rid of Bob. Okay, so so she thought this poor woman actually thought that if she could prove her love by getting rid of her cat. Well, let's say the two of you get together. You meet somebody, and that somebody, you're dating them, and everything they're really wonderful, but they're heavily allergic to your cat and they can't breathe with a cat in the house. And you say, look, I love you very much. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I do love my cat, but the cat's killing you and you can't live the two of you can't live in the house together because the cat's making you ill. And I can see at that point, you might want to rehome the cat. It might be very difficult, but I can see you say, look, honey, I love you so much. I will rehome the cat. But that's different than saying I'm going to rehome the cat because otherwise you're going to drown my cat. No, the guy you're marrying is a sadist. The guy you're marrying is cruel and dangerous. So, Michelle says, the cat stays. Well, it depends how much you like the guy, I suppose, But yeah, Lisa, you're correct. That's the case. He dropped her body out of his private plane. Always helps to have a private plane or a private boat, just in case you want to kill somebody. Private plane. Private boat. Yeah. So the thing, this is where it all comes down to this point where people think that a person did something that was out of character. Nobody ever does anything out of character. And there's a great book called The Myth of the Out of Character Crime. And I have it in my house. I couldn't find it. It was driving me crazy, but it's written by the same guy who wrote Inside the Criminal Mind. Dr. Stanton Samanow, one of my absolute favorite psychologists of all time, one of the guys I think is fabulous. He wrote The Out of Character Crime. No, The Myth of the Out of Character Crime. Same thing, crime of passion. That's considered an out of character crime. So, the person everything was fine, but they lost their mind. This could be what you'd say in the old days. Brian Laundrie committed an out of character crime. He committed a crime of passion. He loved her. They were together, loved Gabby. They were together. They're having this wonderful time traveling, and something went wrong, and he lost his mind and strangled her. And now a lot of people here are going to go, wait a minute, I don't think that was out of character. Isn't there some evidence that it wasn't out of character? And the answer to that is absolutely. There's always evidence. But the problem is, no one ever does anything out of character. So even if you only have done something once, you can say, well, I've never done that before. But why did you do it now? Why is it okay now that you did something appalling? Maybe it's because it's not out of character. So either it's in your character, but you just haven't had opportunity, or you've done it and you're just lying that you never did it. Or you've done it and people have minimized it. So when you're in a dating situation and a person exhibits abusive, sadistic, controlling behavior, it is not out of character. And if it's not out of character, it's going to be with their character in continuing permanently into your relationship. And we all know once you get married or live with somebody or get to become domestic with them, out of character stuff becomes more and more in character every day, because it's, when people are in a dating situation, they try harder. And then when they, start living together and have to deal with each other's day-to-day personalities, that's, some of that's like too hard to do anymore. So it comes out a lot more, these out of character acts. So I just think it's really important that we stop talking about anything being out of character or a crime of passion. None of that is true. So it is really sad. This woman went ahead and married him. And then she said this, oh my God, my sister told me, I'm smart, I'm loving, my love will cure. If your husband is drowning your cat and throwing it out of an airplane, didn't really cure him. You know what I mean? You can't cure psychopathy. It's not curable. I don't care how nice you are. You will always be manipulated. You'll always be abused, and you'll eventually be possibly killed. So it didn't work out. Now, over time, interestingly, Gail Katz's friends and family members noticed the marriage was growing toxic, as if it wasn't toxic when the cat was being drowned in a toilet. Birnbaum was very controlling, and at one point, a neighbor said Katz told him she didn't feel comfortable at home. Yeah. One night, Aileen Katz said Birnbaum caught his wife smoking on their balcony, and he choked her into unconsciousness. Gail reported the incident to the police administrative aide at a local precinct, but nothing came of it. Here's the problem. I mean, clearly, if she actually said he choked her and there was evidence of that, he should have been arrested for attempted homicide. But apparently nothing happened. This was 1983. But here's the problem. He choked her and she did not leave. She managed to get to the police station, but she went back home. And I want to say this to every woman out there who's got this kind of thing going on in her life. Never return. And the only time you return is with a group of people to pick up your crap and get the hell out of there. And if you have to go into hiding, you go into hiding. Anything you can do not to be around that, because give it 24 more hours. It's 24 more hours. He may kill you next time. And anybody who attempts to murder you is a psychopath, a violent psychopath. And why are you going back in the house with him? Just never, ever do it. But apparently, she convinced Birnbaum to see a therapist, who ended up writing her a letter suggesting she should get out of the marriage. Oh my God. Really? The fact that your husband choked you into unconsciousness is the clue. You don't need a therapist after that to tell you to get out of the marriage. But anyway, he did. And he was concerned he might kill her. Still, her sister said Katz brushed it off for a while and told her sister she was planning on leaving him. And then she disappeared. Very, very lovely woman. Birnbaum told her family and police they had had a fight at their apartment and Katz stormed off. Sure she did. He claimed to have stayed home, and but the sister wasn't buying the story. So anyway, went on for months. They couldn't find her. Meanwhile, he was out partying, dating other women, and so finally they figured out that he tossed a body out of his plane. So Never go back, even for 1 minute. Don't go back. You take people with you. You have to take police officers with you, big guys with guns, whoever, your brothers, whatever you got, you get your shit out of there and you get away. And if you have to, you get some kind of protection. Protective orders are pretty much freaking useless. So a piece of paper doesn't tell a psychopath not to come and kill you if he knows where you are. So you want to make sure you have as much of a safety net as you can to, in getting away from that person. And that's not easy. I'm not downplaying that. It's not easy, whether you go to a battered women's shelter or you leave the country and go into hiding, change your name, live behind walls. I don't know, whatever you got to do, you get a gun and, and make sure that you have the bolts on your apartment door and bolts on your bedroom door. So you got a level of protection. But when you walk out, he might be out there. It's tough. It's really tough to leave a psychopath, but staying doesn't work. So people say, well, I didn't know how, I couldn't leave. Out. You get out any way you can. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying that's reality is that's your only really good choice. You can make other choices, but that's your only good choice. So I thought that was a really interesting story on, coming up with a Gabby Petito case. One other thing I wanted to mention was, a couple of things I wanted to mention. This is, I don't know how many of you saw the Smiley Face thing I did on Smiley Face Killers, that the concept that there's this gang running around drowning young men. And they're going all over the country and they look for young men to drown, and they manage to kill them without leaving a mark on their body. And it's a really ridiculous theory. But anyway, there's a story that just came out. Missing Illinois grad student Jelani Day drowned, coroner says. Illinois is an Illinois State University student. His body was found in the Illinois River 10 days after he was reported missing. He was a speech pathology student, only 25 years old. A family reported him missing on August 25th. His car was found the next day, leading searchers to focus on areas north of Bloomingdale near the river. So clearly his car did go near the river. Rescue crews found Day's body floating on the river near the city of Peru on September 4th, according to the police. Now, here's another thing. Police said security video showed Day going to a Bloomingdale cannabis dispensary called Beyond Hello the morning of August 24th. Was his last known location. Here's this, nice young man here. There he is, nice young man. Really sad. And the clothes that he was wearing to the dispensary were the clothes he was also found in. The coroner said there's no evidence of injury, assault, altercation, gunfire, tumors, infection, natural disease, heart problems, or significant drug intoxication. So now this is what always happens. Day's mother has suggested that foul play may have played a role in his death. He wasn't depressed, she said last month. He didn't have any kind of pressures that would make him want to escape from life. So I feel there was someone else involved. And there we go. It's going to be another Smiley Face Killer story. Because generally speaking, almost always when a person ends up in the drink, they end up there by doing something stupid. I'm sorry, but that's usually what it is. Often connected with alcohol, very often connected with alcohol. They said there were, in his system, they didn't find any significant drug intoxication, but it could be minor drug intoxication. So I don't know what significant means. In other words, he didn't OD, but he might have had enough to make a stupid choice. Sometimes you'd be surprised at the stupid things, especially young people do. Sometimes it gets really dumb. It's like, I think I'll walk across that log, and they fall into the water, and it's whatever, they get caught up in a piece of branch or something. They can't get back out, and they drown. I mean, can be just some really silly, stupid thing. And I mentioned this before, but a girl that my kids knew went to Baltimore one evening to celebrate her birthday. She was in her 20s, and was she 30? She went to celebrate her birthday with friends, left the bar, and was found in the harbor, drowned. And because of the sketchy area, people ask, "What do you think, Pat?" And I'm thinking, it's a sketchy area. I wonder if somebody grabbed her and tried to rape her and threw her in the water. But the interesting thing was, the police shut the case down really quick and said it was an accidental death, and her dad didn't object. And you wonder, it's like, what? almost always when you have somebody's in the water like this guy, the mother immediately says somebody must have killed him. And this girl's in the water, and the father didn't complain. And the reason the father didn't complain was they had a video. They had a CCTV camera on that spot, and it showed her walking along by herself and pitching into the water, and drowning. So they had a video of it. So it was really interesting because here we have an actual video of just a very stupid moment in this poor girl's life. I mean, she was a really nice girl. Everybody loved her. She was having a great time with her friends, and she was planning to meet her parents' family the next day, and they were all going to, have this big birthday lunch. Nice girl. She was employed. She wasn't a drug user. She just went and had some drinks with friends, maybe too many. And if it wasn't for the video, we would definitely think she'd been murdered. But then they would have pulled her body out of that water without the video, and they would have said, wow, there's no abrasions, there's nothing, nobody's done anything to her, and she would be another Smiley Face Killer, contender. But because of that video, we can learn from that video that sometimes when people are drinking, doing some sorts of drugs, or just late at night, they're doing stupid stuff, they fall in the water and they drown. Maybe their clothes weight them down. Maybe they're not good swimmers. Maybe they get caught in an area where they can't figure out, they get confused and start swimming the wrong way and can't get back to shore. Whatever it might be, So this happens to many young people, too many, and it's not the Smiley Face Killer. So I thought that was a really interesting story because, again, we're probably going to hear the Smiley Face Killers out there because mom is not wanting to accept that her 25-year-old son, with everything to live for, now is not alive. And, it's terribly, terribly, terribly sad. How is his name spelled, please? Oh, Michelle did that. Jelani Day, Jelani, first name, and then Day, D-A-Y. Michelle says, I've been following this one. I feel for his mother. It's horrible. It is horrible. I mean, it's just, sad. Really, really sad. Let's see what else Lisa says. Lisa says, that's cool. This is becoming more and more fascinating as I read, study, and listen to Pat. I started the profile of the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. Oh, very good. Thank you. I'm glad you're going to read that one. I really like that book because I think it's a good profile, and it explains exactly why I think certain things happened, and why I think that there is no abductor in the case of Madeleine McCann. Oh, and by the way, there's a really interesting movie that came out that Amanda Knox, because just last week I did Amanda Knox, and some people weren't happy with my conclusions on that one. No matter whether they thought she was guilty or they thought she was innocent, they weren't happy with me. But I'm following what I see that evidence says, and if a court of law, if the police are working the case, they should be paying attention to what the evidence tells. And then if you get to a court of law, the same thing should happen. Doesn't always work that way, but that's the way it should work. But anyway, this movie came out. It's called Stillwater, and it stars Matt Damon as an unemployed oil rig worker from Oklahoma who sets out with a French woman to prove his convicted daughter's innocence. And so he flies over to France, and he's meeting with his daughter in prison, and he's trying to prove that she's innocent. And it is clearly inspired by the Amanda Knox story. Not that it was Amanda Knox story, but Amanda didn't take well to this movie at all, because it basically did not entirely exonerate the woman in the movie. So Amanda was a wee bit upset about it, because she says, hey, here people are still insinuating that I could have had something to do with what happened to Meredith. And so she wasn't happy with the movie, but it's an enjoyable movie. I actually did like watching the movie. So that was that one. Okay, now let's see if there's anything else. Okay, and then my question I had asked to all of you was, who do you think the smartest serial killer is? And Lisa said, is this a trick question? Because wouldn't the smartest serial killer be the guy that never got caught and we don't even know about? And there's a really good point, because in theory, that's true. And I'm going to point out a book, which is a pretty much unknown book and probably didn't sell more than 10 copies, but I have one of. This is called Still at Large. And it's written by a guy by the name of Michael Newton, whoever he is. And it's a case book of 20th century serial killers who eluded justice. And he's got, let me see what he's got in here. Um, he has got a lot in here, which goes to show you, quite sadly, that's how many serial homicides don't get solved. So if you see nothing more than the index, that's all. There's more. Yep, there's lots of them. Although he has Atlanta child murders in here, which is interesting because I'm not sure I'd go with that one. But there's a lot of really, and BTK, I think that was before. See, he wrote this a while back. So some of these, Freeway Phantom is in here. Freeway Phantom is a really fascinating case out of Washington, D.C., where quite a number of young African-American girls were they disappeared, and like 10 of them in the 70s. And they never found the guy. And I will do a show on that, because I actually talked to one of the aunts of one of the girls. She's like one of the last living people. And she gave me all her notes of this particular case the cases which were never solved. Fascinating case, and some really interesting suspects, but they never figured out who did it. So yeah, that could be maybe the smartest guy. So there's just a huge number of. Most of these I don't even know, and probably you all wouldn't know most of these, because a lot of these come and go, and because they never solved them, they just kind of disappear into history. And some of these have been solved since the guy wrote the book. So finally, some they got solved. Most of them by DNA evidence, by the way. This was written in. Wow, it has 1999. So, yeah, so it's almost a 20-year-old book. So, but really, really interesting. He just goes through all these different cases. So, is it because they were smart that they got is it? I just want to mention, Michelle says Jelani's license plate was missing from his car, so that's a bit suspicious. But the problem is, there's no signs of any kind of injury to his body. And nothing, he's got no trauma. He's got no nothing. People don't just quietly drown people in the water. That doesn't work that way. So, I just doesn't. I don't know what that story is. I will look into it about why it's missing. But and if he's seen going into places and buying weed and stuff like that, that was probably something his mother said, oh, he wouldn't do that. There's a lot of times, as far as depression goes too, parents will say, oh, my kid isn't depressed, my child is not suicidal. And they're completely wrong. They're absolutely completely wrong, or they don't want to admit to it, or they don't want to admit to their child doing strange stuff or stupid stuff. So it's really tricky to investigate these things, because a lot of times the families aren't really, willing to come forth with anything that's negative about their child. But anyway, back to serial killers who don't get caught. Most of the time they don't get caught because the police do not know who they are. It's not that the crime was fancy. It's that they picked out a complete stranger, killed that stranger, and disappeared. And there's no real good link to them. So if they left their DNA, it might one day be solved, because remember, back in the day, if you're going back into the 80s, 70s, somebody could leave your DNA every place and nobody found you. You know what I mean? But now with all the new DNA, the CODIS bank, where you can put the DNA in, somebody gets arrested for something, you get their DNA in the bank. All this familial history stuff that's being done, which is called the Golden State Killer. Now you're catching people who, in the 70s left their DNA every place, but they weren't worried back then. And they got caught later on, 40 years later, because now that is evidence these days. But if that DNA thing hadn't improved, they would never have been caught. And if they don't, and if you're never in the CODIS, if you're never connected to anything else, another crime, you may never be caught. And now people are getting smarter. They'll use, more of them are using condoms. And therefore, they don't leave any DNA. Also, perhaps, if the body is like thrown into a river and all the stuff, everything's washed away, or the body is burned up in a fire pit, you won't have DNA. So the methodologies of serial homicide will probably change as serial killers. Wait a minute, I better not be leaving that DNA around. So they may take different techniques. They may use different techniques to hide their crimes than they did in days past, because they didn't need to do those things. So a good portion of time they're just simply not caught because police methodology I do not think is very good for catching serial killers, and that's why I'm developing a whole class for detectives on this. I think they use the wrong methods, so I think that's a problem. I also think it's just because it's usually a stranger homicide. It's very hard to figure out who in the whole town could have done this. So it's a tough crime to solve. So it isn't necessarily that they're brilliant, but it's just that it's not that hard a crime to get away with compared to if you knock off your wife, you get a problem. You got some splaining to do while your wife is no longer in your house, and you can try to say, oh, she drove away, and then you got to do something with the car, and people, family gets upset, and they go, hey, it must be you, so you're the number one suspect. So that's a hard crime to deal with. But jumping out from behind a bush and grabbing a girl and raping and murdering her and walking away, going home and taking a shower, the police say, oh my God, dead body in the bush. I wonder who that was, and then they find out who it is, and then they don't have any idea who did it. So it's really, really tough. So most of the time they're not that smart, and then there's a difference between somebody was saying about, there's a difference between IQ, because some people are saying, oh, some people have been not say, well, let's see who is the one that they said who's got the highest IQ one was who was it? What's his name? Oh shoot, Ed Kemper. They said he was really, really smart, IQ wise, and he did seem pretty smart when he did his prison interviews, but Kemper, Michelle, he did seem pretty smart. But then you take the Green River Killer, and apparently he was on the loose for 24 years, and they were trying so hard to catch him, and they were doing they weren't catching him, and apparently his IQ was like in the 80s. So it's like, so I don't think IQ has anything to do with it. Rodney Alcala. I always forget which way to. Okay, if it's pronounced Spanish, it's Alcala. It's pronounced English, it's Alcala, but I think it's Alcala. The dating game serial killer. Yes, this is true. The smartest serial killer known to man with an estimated IQ of 170. And Rodney, because I've done a lot of stuff on Rodney. Rodney made a lot of mistakes, actually. So he was smart, but he wasn't so street smart, actually. And it was really bad police work that just didn't catch that dude. I mean, really. Bad police work. That's all I can say. And he would go up to girls, and he's talking to them on the beach in public and saying, I'm a photographer, and it's not like he was hidden, similar to Ted Bundy, who wasn't very bright either as far as his manners of getting people. So I think a lot of times it's bad police work more than it's that they're so smart. They just, when you look at Ted Bundy, he's the one I just always go to for unbelievably stupid police work on that, because, he goes up to Lake Sammamish and he goes up to a girl with his cast on his arm, and he goes, can you help me put this boat in the back of I don't know what it's a boat. Was it a boat or something like that? And he goes, I can't do it because of the cast. My name's Ted, and that's my gold Volkswagen. And then the girl goes missing, but the other people around say, well, the guy's name was Ted, and he had a gold Volkswagen, had a cast on his arm. And his own girlfriend goes to the police and says, that sounds like my Ted, because he has a gold Volkswagen and he has a cast on. I found cast making materials in his drawer, and the police ignored him. I mean, if the girlfriend walked and said, here's the evidence, go look at my boyfriend, and they didn't do anything with it. So he used his, yes, exactly, Michelle. He used his real name and said Ted. I mean, this is not brilliant. This is not brilliant. You're much smarter if, just driving along the side of the road and watching a girl walking along the side of the road at night and just leaning out and grabbing the girl and throwing her in your car and driving away. That's smarter. Don't go up and give her a name. It's just idiotic stuff. Oh my God. And Annie says, okay, let me see if I can pronounce this one. Giulia Tofana killed hundreds of men in the 17th century Italy. I cannot pronounce Giulia Is that better? You think it's Giulia? I wish I could hear your voices because then I know what I'm even close. Giulia Tofana. Okay. Killed hundreds of men in 17th century Italy when she turned her makeup business into a poison factory, selling a deadly concoction called aqua tofana. But she was executed. Wow. Oh my God. Yeah, when you have, and surprising it doesn't happen more, and thank God it doesn't happen more. And one worries about that in general. It's like the Tylenol murders. You have you go sometimes you don't know. Sometimes you could call it a mass murder for it all. Everybody gets poisoned at once, or you could call it a serial murders if you put poison in different things, and get a thrill out of reading in the paper that somebody drank something out of a bottle and they fell over in the parking lot. So the poison thing is interesting because that can be very hard to prove. It really can. Now we have more cameras in stores these days, but certainly in the past when there wasn't a lot of cameras, somebody could literally walk down an aisle of a store and put poison in stuff and walk back out of the store. Nobody would know it. Now I say we have better cameras, so at least maybe you can identify the person. So CCTV is really very useful. I think Lisa was the one who said Harold Shipman is a doctor in the UK, and he killed a whole bunch of people, and he signed their own death certificates himself, and he killed them with whatever he killed them with, I don't know, overdosing with drugs or whatever. He's very similar to the nurses that do this or the anesthesiologists that do this. Killing people in a hospital doesn't necessarily require that. You might be a smart person in general to get the job. If you're, a doctor or an anesthesiologist, to get the job, you had to have relative smarts. But the actual methodology is not all that amazing because all you have to do is you have to know the organization you're working for and what they do for watching things and taking care of things, and then what you can get away with as far as the person died on the table. The person was 85 years old and, they passed away. And most of the time, you are not going to get autopsies on elderly people. I mean, they're expected to die. They're not getting an autopsy. So if somebody wants to just push them over the edge, could be a relative, could be a caretaker, could be a doctor, it could be a nurse. You just want to push them over the edge for the cheap thrill of saying, haha, I actually killed them. It's not that hard to do. And you can get away with it for a very, very long time because nobody's suspicious. That's the problem. If nobody's suspicious of why the person dies, and it isn't until you're like, it's a little odd that in our hospital, we have, 200 extra people died here that shouldn't have died. Why is our hospital so bad and that hospital so good? And then you say, well, there was once another hospital that had the same problem. Oh, wait a minute. The same guy worked here when we lost 200 people, and he was fired from there after they lost 200 people. And oh my goodness. So, and it is very interesting a lot of times, which is the problem with some of these big corporations, is they will have somebody they are suspicious of, and they will let them go and not tell another hospital that don't hire this dude because we think he's killing our people. They don't want a lawsuit, so they don't say anything. And that's how the guy can hop hospital to hospital and kill and get away with it for a really long time. So I don't know how much I think it's brilliant, but I think it's just, they can get away with it. Florence says the top 10 serial killers by number of kills are mostly South or Central American. That probably says more about the lack of organized or well-funded police departments, I would guess. Yeah, that is probably true. I mean, if nobody's coming after you, you can kill pretty much just when you want to. And there's another reason. When you have situations where you have poorer people who do not have cars to get places, where especially young women have to walk down long, dark roads, or they have to take, buses late at night in scary places. Like Mexico had a lot of problems with girls going missing, the factory girls that were working in the factories near the border, because they were out at really bad hours and they were easy victims. So yeah, so if you had a serial killer among that, then boy, they could just pick them off and pick them off and pick them off. Whereas in this country, a lot of times our serial killers here in the U.S. will have downtimes quite long between killings because it's too damn much work, and you're also worried. You're worried that the police are going to come in and get you, and so it's not just you just can't knock people off just like that. And then, of course, the other question is: are some of these large numbers of kills are those drug gang related, cartel related? And some of them are. So it gets a little tricky too when it becomes cartel territory. So you find bodies in the bushes, and you could say it's a serial killer, but is it just the cartel, getting rid of competition, or getting rid of somebody they think is opening their mouth too much. So some of those issues get really, really tricky. I will do another show on this one day, but I think this will probably be in my school thing, maybe. And it'll be about the culture of crime. There's a great show, and you can watch it on Netflix, and it's called Indian Detective. Oh my God, this is such a good show. There's just four episodes, and it shows the detectives on 4 different cases. One of the cases is a guy is found dumped in a sack of, like a flour sack of some sort, on the side of the road in a town, and his mother and his sister think that the wife and the wife's mother killed him. And that's a really interesting story. Then there's another one where a baby is kidnapped. And there's another one where a prostitute who's working out of her home, and she works out of the bus station, but brings a guy home and gets killed in her home. And what was the 4th crime? Oh, a girl kills her mother. And she's in the tech field, and she's working a good job. She went to college. She's working a good job. She's got a boyfriend who's also working in the tech field, and she kills her mother. And when they start following these cases, and they follow the detectives on the cases, the detectives are talking about the kinds why people kill. And there goes my refrigerator. It's going to do my dying refrigerator over there. It's going to get really loud for like a few minutes, and then it's going to quiet down again. And until it dies. I guess it's struggling its last breaths. But I think the detective said, I'm trying to remember this now, that there's 3 reasons people kill, and that's for money, for love, and for land. I thought the land one was really interesting. And this becomes cultural. So in each country, people, there still may have personality disorders, but they will do things, different kinds of crimes, and they'll have different kinds of motives for those crimes based on cultural stuff. And so when you go to analyze those crimes, and you go to, you try to catch these people, you have to understand the culture that's behind it, so you know where to look, because otherwise you might not be looking in the right place. And you also have to know how to interrogate them. And it's a really fascinating show. If you just want to see how this department in India is working on its crimes. And one thing they've got in India, which is they have CCTV like you wouldn't believe. And they just did amazing stuff with that. The way they caught some of the people because of that is just blows my mind. I mean, in the US, we're way behind probably because of privacy issues, but man, I mean, they really did great with the CCTV there. The pictures were really good too. So they had real good quality pictures, where sometimes in this country, like stores have they got video cameras that are so freaking old. I mean, it's like watching a 1950s movie on your little TV in the corner of your room, when you were like 3. So it's some really bad stuff we got in this country. Not that we can't have better stuff, but just a lot of businesses and places have really old cameras. So you just get that grainy stuff that doesn't do much good. Let's see what Molly says. Manny says, big business getting rid of arranged marriages. Well, sometimes, sometimes the problem can be that there are, again, money issues in arranged marriages that do exist. But, and because there's more people involved usually in an arranged marriage, more money changes hands, and everybody has, the approval thing there is stronger than like in countries where people just fall in love and then run off and get married, and then the families go, whatever, Usually they're not so involved in the lives of their wedded couple. So I don't know if it's arranged marriages itself. It's just that there's so much involvement in the community of the marriage. It's a little complicated. Molly says, my vote, Belle Gunness of IN. What's IN, right? Tell me what IN is. She killed some of her kids, only some of them, 2 husbands, collected life insurance, and killed many male suitors and stole their dollars, torched property for insurance, and her total take is $6 million. Whoa, $6 million. I have to look up her. I am not familiar with her. I know other Black widows of basically what they are, Black widows. And a lot of those Black widows do go, amazingly enough, through husbands and maybe strangers or people. Remember, what was the movie Lilac and Cary Grant, Lilac and Old Lace or something, where they get rumors in their house and then they knock them off for their money and bury them out in the backyard. The Black widows often get away with it. There's some pretty conniving little people. So I have to say, Indiana. Well, goodness, I don't know that name. I'm going to put her in my Google search because I am just not familiar. I'm not familiar with that one. And here she is, American serial killer. There you are. You're right. Wow. She was born Brynhild Paulsdatter Stuseth, Norwegian American serial killer, active in Illinois and Indiana between 1884 and 1908. Was she worth? Whoa. Well, she's not a good looking woman, let me tell you. I mean, not sure who married her, but okay. But she believed to have murdered more than 40 people. Wow, that is a vicious looking female. I'm telling you. Google her. She's scary thing. She also had a series of suspicious fires and deaths. Yeah, assurance stuff. She began posting notices. And this is the early internet, man. Began posting notices in lovelorn columns to entice wealthy men to her farm, after which they were never seen again. And here's the advantage of having a farm. A farm. John Wayne Gacy had out that crawl space, and he put all the people he killed in the crawl space, all the kids and stuff. And the reason he got caught was he ran out of room in the crawl space and then went and dumped somebody off a bridge. And when he did that, somebody saw him and he got caught tossing people off bridges. So if you're going to kill people, get a very nice farm. She had a nice farm. So she was able to bury the people on her farm. The authorities eventually found the remains of over 40 victims on her property, but Belle disappeared without a trace. Oh, this is fabulous. This is really, really interesting. So apparently she came to the U.S. in search of wealth, which I guess she found, but she had a complete life of crime. So she got married, and then their store burned down. They got the insurance for that. Oh, and then her husband died of heart failure one day. And his 2 life insurance policies overlapped. Though her husband's family demanded an inquiry, no charges were filed, and it is believed the couple produced 2 more children. Wait a minute. Oh, she had 2 more children. Somebody died. Who died? He died. I don't know. But anyway, they got 2 more children. Then she poisoned them in infancy. See, there's a Munchausen syndrome by proxy. See, women do kill their children in infancy for the insurance money. Oh my God. I will have to do a show on this one day. Thank you for that. That's just Belle fed her victims to her pigs. Well, having had a piggy myself for 20 years, I will not give you the address of my previous home where my pig lived for 20 years. Because I rented rooms to college students. God knows where those college students are today. Oh my God. But wow, that's a really interesting story. But it's funny here because it keeps saying all these people became suspicious. They complained, and it's amazing how hard it is to bring these people down. Mostly because a lot of times they're just not. The families aren't believed, or they just. Oh wow. Oh Lord, that's just 40 men and children were exhumed. Oh, she had a hired hand. He helped out. Oh, okay. So she even got help. Oh, wow. I did not know of that one. That's a completely new one to me. But women can be very dangerous, and I keep pointing out to people, women can be serial killers. And now people will say that the women more likely do it for money than for just the thrill of it. But here's the thing, you know, have you ever done something, a job in your life where you really enjoy the job, but you like getting paid too? It, you might not do the job if you didn't get paid, but you might do it because you enjoyed the job. But you might like enjoying the job because you can do both, enjoy the job and get paid. Serial killers are no different. It's like, man, this will be fun to kill that dude, and I get his money. That doesn't make you less of a serial killer. I don't understand that. Oh, because you killed them for money, 40 people, you're not going to be called a serial killer. You are one, and motive is always power and control. And power and control can come in many, many forms. And money is one of the ways you get power and control. So, but who says she just didn't enjoy the living heck out of the whole luring the men to the property and buttering them up, and rich men, and getting money from them, and then getting rid of them. So, I'm going to say she just has a very good psychopathic mind of a serial killer. Helene says, everyone died with her. Yeah. After a while, you're like, I guess, if news doesn't get around well enough, and see, this is the problem in the old days, is that the news would never get from one place to another well enough so that you would have a little warning that maybe you shouldn't go with that person, But even it's fascinating that even, before the internet, even before, if you think about the process of how, like, especially Black widows worked, that there were lovelorn columns even back in the day, way back in the day. And then there was Craigslist. And then there's, all the different dating sites now on the internet, Tinder. There's always a way or another to lure somebody into you through some methodology. And for the men who get lured by these ladies, the women are good at luring the men because they know the exact things to say to lure them. Now, this woman was not a good-looking woman. I'm telling you, go look at this woman. Maybe she looked a whole hell of a lot better before this picture was taken of her. Maybe there's some older picture of her and she wasn't such a hideous creature. But then again, who knows what picture they saw of her, or any picture. She could have been, writing a letter, come and stay, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, oh, that sounds so good. Maybe she sent a phony picture. Hey, if you can put a phony picture of you on a dating site, you don't think you can send a picture of your niece in a letter to some lonely dude out there? Yeah, of course you can. And then you just know the right things to say. I've always said, for men, watch out for the woman who says, I love football. I love football, and I like to bring my man a beer, and I like dogs. It's like, hot damn, that's the woman I want, and I love to cook. So there's key words that somebody wants to hear. And one of the famous ones that I've always thought was interesting for Black widows is this one: I just want an honest, hardworking man. And just want an honest, hardworking man. And what she's indicating there is the regular guy. I just want a regular guy who is a good man. Doesn't matter if you're overweight. It doesn't matter if you're not attractive looking. Doesn't matter if you're bald. It doesn't matter if you have a gut. All I want is a good, honest, hardworking man. And those guys are going, oh, that's me. That's me. I'm, some women don't look at me twice, but I'm a hardworking dude, and I'm honest and good. And isn't it nice that this woman wants that kind of guy? Oh my gosh! And if you look at if you go to any of the felon websites, which you can date a prisoner type of things, they have the best dating lines you will ever hear. I'm going to do a show on that. It's amazing the dating lines they have. They are like, if I look on some place like okay, somebody give me a what's one of the dating sites? What's the most popular one? Gosh, I can't remember the name of it now. Not Tinder. You know what I'm talking about. The one where you put your profile up, the most popular one. God, I can't remember the name of it now. But if you look at the profiles of the dudes on that site, they like pick the guys are taking pictures against their car or against a completely horrible looking wall and like a sofa that looks like it's been there for 30 years. And they're not exactly attractive, and they don't say very attractive things. But if you go to the website for the prisoners, the dudes there, they got hot pictures of themselves because they've been working out, the weights. They're like, and then they're like, I love walks on the beach, and I like a sensitive woman, and I like to try new foods, and I sometimes just like to snuggle in front of a fire and read a good book with the lady I love. That's the guy I want. Unfortunately, he's in prison for life, but I like that guy. And the psychopaths are really good at spinning, that stuff. So I'm going to say that Ms. What's her face here? I forgot what her name is now. Belle here. She was probably really good at writing a good letter. Probably really good with a letter. Oh my God. Molly said Belle told them to bring their money and triflers need not apply. Oh my God. Triflers need not apply. Just bring your money. So I have to look at her. Oh, that's just brilliant, Molly. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm going to have to really look that up. Really. I mean, wow. Yeah, I'm going to do something with her because, I just don't think sometimes people realize that women can be pretty darn dangerous and that they know what to say. They know how here's how they know how to do this. eHarmony. Oh, that's one of them. Yeah. Well, no, what's the other? What's the eHarmony? No, that's the one you have to pay more money for. What's the most well-known one? Oh, I can't remember the name of it. Shit, the one everybody goes on before they go to eHarmony after they give up on the other one. What was I going to say? Oh, Match. Thank you. Match.com. Yes, Match. I mean, I swear to God, do a test. Go to Match.com. Look at some of the guys' pictures and look at their pictures, where they took their pictures, and then what they say. And then go over to the prisoner sites. Just put in inmate dating. They'll come up. And you read the dudes there or the women there. You can do the women too. And just like the people in prison are so much more attractive all the way around. Swear to God, they're like, you want to date all of them. Grinder, yeah, Grinder. No, Grinder's more of a Tinder thing, isn't it? I mean, there's a difference between you just want, the next 3 hours with a person, and you want a match for your life, But do check out the Match.com and then check out the inmate dating site, and you'll have to come back. I should give you this as a homework. Go out and check that out. Next week I'll come and ask you, did you find yourself a date on the inmate dating site? Because there's some really hot people there. And that's when people say, I don't know why somebody would get hooked up with a person in prison and then start writing them and then start sending them little bits of money and then go to visit them and then then get married to them, have conjugal visits and be waiting for them to come out. The reason is this: psychopaths aren't necessarily always clever or always understand the way they should behave, in a social situation. Sometimes they're weird as crap and they creep you out. However, the one thing they do practice, especially in prison, because prison will have you go to all kinds of little chat sessions and psychology sessions. And from there, you learn all kinds of good things. And so what you do is, in real life, this is what a psychopath will do. He'll go up to a lady and say, I think who did this? Oh my God, I'm trying to remember who. Oh, I forgot which serial killer did this. I'm blanking now, but he would go he'd go up to a lady and say, hi, I want to get married to you. And she'd go, that's creepy, dude. Don't tell a woman you just met you want to marry him. Oh, okay. So now he's learned that he's not supposed to say that. So now he goes up and goes, hey, how about coming back to my place? And she says, that's really creepy. You don't just ask a girl you just met back to your place. You should just say, how about a cup of coffee? So next time he goes up to a girl, he says, hey, it's really nice seeing you. How about getting a cup of coffee? And she goes, oh, she's thinking, oh my God, this is a decent guy. Oh, he's just asking for a cup of coffee. She goes, oh, I'd love a cup of coffee. So it took him 3 tries to find out the right line to use that would be acceptable to the women. It isn't that he was a changed person. It isn't that he was a decent guy who just wanted to have a cup of coffee. It's he learned he couldn't say the other 2 things. So, so, so that's how, oh, Annie says, I'm just being silly for Grindr. Well, some people have met through Grindr and gotten married too. So people will say, I just, after my 30 dates in back alley, I actually, one of them really was pretty good. But so the guy, what they do is they learn what to say. And so by the time they're in prison, they learn from each other and they learn from all the psych groups and stuff that they have to go to. And they make a really great a profile. So much better than the regular dude down the block who doesn't, oh, I've never done this before. Okay, I'm 52 years old and I like women with big breasts. Okay, really, dude, probably shouldn't say that. That's kind of creepy. But, so, but if you go to the inmate site, none of them say that. They all want to walk on the beach and read poetry. Now, of course, they're never going to see another beach in their entire lifetime. But yeah, and you can say anything if you actually can't do it. So there you go. Michelle says Manson almost married 26-year-old while in prison. I don't believe they went through with it, but could be mistaken. I don't know, but prisoners always get fan clubs, and they always get people who want to marry them. And I suppose the main reason is because if you in your own personal little life do not feel like you're important, but you can hook up with Charles Manson. Maybe you become somebody. And you can come up with all your excuses. Well, I think anybody can be saved. I think that he didn't really mean to do what he did. I think he's a changed man. And somebody will be, because you're somebody. Now, she could do the same thing for the guy that, stocks the shelves down at the Weiss supermarket. But the guy at the Weiss supermarket isn't somebody that everybody else knows. He's the guy that stocks shelves. You could go and help him, but he's not going to make you feel good enough. But if you can go visit Charles Manson, oh my God, it's exciting. It's exciting. And then everybody says, oh my God, is she visiting with Charles Manson? And then you can write letters back and forth. And, there's nothing better than writing letters to people who can't get near you. And some of them are really good letter writers too, by the way. Psychopaths sometimes can write a real nice letter. And that yet you're safe from them. You don't actually have to date them. And they're using you, but you just get this, open. I mean, don't you all miss letters? I mean, I had a friend, Janice, and I was in high school, and she was my best friend, and she moved to Scotland. And I only have one of her letters now. I don't know what happened to them. I had the rest of them because they were tied up with a little ribbon thingy. For some reason, they disappeared, but I have one of her letters. And it's one of those girls' letters where you open up the envelope and you pull out the paper. It's like 10 sheets of paper. And she's like, you go through hi, Pat. These are all the things I'm doing. How are you? And it's just wonderful. It's like, it's there's something very special about it. And you hold the papers in your hands, you read these wonderful letters, they say these nice things to you, you feel like you're part of their life, and you can go to sleep with the thing under your pillow, and you can wake up in the morning and it's still there, it's all beautiful. So for a guy in prison who knows how to manipulate people, I mean, I could get a letter tomorrow from, which I have. I got a letter from what's his name? Happy Face Killer. Mm-hmm. What is his name? Anybody remember what the Happy Face Killer? I've got his letter in my file somewhere. Happy. I think it's his. He's in. Keith Jesperson. Happy Face Killer. Yeah, he's American Canadian serial killer. He was called the Happy Face Killer because he actually drew smiley faces in the letters to the media. I don't remember if my letter had a little smiley face in it or not. But anyway, he killed a lot of prostitutes, and he wrote me. And his letter didn't start by saying, hello, Mrs. Brown. At the time I was married. Hello, Mrs. Brown. That's not what it said. It said, hello, Pat. Hi, I'm an admirer of your work. I think you're wonderful. Blah, blah, blah. Long letter. And very, very poetic, very complimentary toward me. And I can tell you, my ex-husband never wrote me a letter like that. So, you get this letter, and it's like all big ego boosting stuff from a serial killer. So, they're very manipulative. And so people who, the Black Widows and people who, want to suck people into things, they know how to catch people. And they may have, and it will be a learned methodology because they might have tried other things first and it didn't work. So they just keep trying until certain things click. And then they use that method once they figure it out. Michelle says Manson almost, oh yeah, you always said that. Okay. Somebody else I want to mention for the smart one is James de Bartolin. He is, well, I think one of the most fascinating and smartest serial killers out there. And the reason I say that, he never got convicted for the serial homicides, but he got convicted for, he was a counterfeiter. And that's how they actually caught him and found out he was a serial killer, because he counterfeited. Like, he had more money running around. He was like printing out money, like printing a lot of money. And he was running around different locations in the United States using that money and using his counterfeit money all over the place. But while he was running around, he tended to like real estate agents. He would like, hey, can we go see this house? And then he'd meet the real estate agent there under a phony name, and then he would rape and murder her. And he killed quite a few women. And it was only after they finally figured out he was a counterfeiter, and they opened up his trunk of the car and then eventually a storage unit and found out that this dude's a serial killer as well. But he had a run of about 18 years of serial homicides and was never actually caught for the serial homicides. That guy was pretty damn smart. And he was like, the Secret Service was after him. See, they were investigating a string of counterfeiting cases where the guy would enter a mall with a wad of counterfeit $20 bills, which he made in the basement, make a small purchase at each store at the mall, receiving most of the remainder in legitimate cash. Finally, de Bartolin was identified as the suspect in these crimes, and there was a national manhunt. And so that's when they discovered the evidence of the sex crimes. But he finally got convicted. He's been serving 375 years. But he really didn't get convicted for the serial homicide. So I'd say that dude was pretty smart, and he's a fascinating case. He's one hell of a creepy dude. He is from Virginia, so he's kind of one of my choices as somebody. And then the other one I think I would pick would be Golden State Killer. I talked about him the other day. The Golden State Killer. I mean, he got away with so many. He got away with burglaries, then he got away with rapes, then he got away with serial homicides, and they only finally got him through familial DNA years and years and years later. And he had one hell of a long run. And I think he was very wary, and he broke into people's homes, but he did a lot of smart things when he broke into people's homes. So he actually was, I think, probably one of the smartest serial killers out there. I really do think so. I would go with the Golden State Killer. Another one people mention historically, and I did a show on this, and it was H.H. Holmes. His name was Herman Webster Mudgett. He was also known as Dr. Henry Howard Holmes, or H.H. Holmes. And he had this huge hotel with all kinds of hidden doors, and he used to put bodies down, slide down into the basement, and he did all kinds of creepy crap. It was quite something. So he was a con artist. He was all kinds of things along with being a killer as well. There's a book called Murder. What's the name of the book? It's a really good book. And I highly recommend it. Hold on a second, let me find the name of the book. It's Eric Larson's The Devil in the White City: Murder, Magic, and Madness at the Fair That Changed America. And this was during the World's Fair. And so that's one of the reasons he got a lot of his victims, because they would come to town oh my God, I'm going to go work at the World's Fair. And they would be single women coming to town. And then he'd get a hold of them and they'd never come back. But that particular book, The Devil in the White City, it's a really, really well-written true crime book. And if you know me by now, I'm not very fond of true crime books. So a lot of them I just don't like reading. But this one was fascinating. And it turned out a good thing that I read it, because then I got a call from a network, and I went out to Chicago where it all took place. And I was the profiler on the show for that. So if you put in, I don't even know what the name of that, I don't even know what the name of that was. It's weird, after a while, I've done enough television work, I can't remember what I've done anymore. Let's see, profiler Pat Brown. Let's see if I can find anything about H.H. Holmes. Find anything about the show that I actually did. So let's see if it comes up. Where is it? Okay, I don't know where it is. Interesting. I'm not sure how Devil in the White City. Maybe the whole. I wonder if the video. I have somewhere in my files. I have a copy of the show that I did. It was really fun to do. Devil in the White City. Let's see if I come up that way. Madness in the White City. Oh, okay. That must be the name. Oh, that's the TV movie. So that's the one I did. Madness in the White City. It's called. Yeah. They took the best-selling book Devil in the White City, and they returned to Chicago to World's Fair to meet America's first serial killers. That's what they call him. Yeah, there I am. Okay, I'm there. Okay, I found the show. Oh, that's okay. It's called Madness in the White City, and here's what I actually remember from doing the show. I remember it was a good show, just vaguely, but I really wanted to try Chicago pizza, and I found the best Chicago pizza place was like really fairly close to the hotel, but it wasn't the greatest part of town. But anyway, I walked at a time of night. I probably shouldn't have walked because we'd finished up when it got dark. And so then I walked to this pizza place, and I was very excited. And I bought 2 pizzas, and they were small ones, but they were the corn crust Chicago style, best Chicago pizza. And I bought 2 because I was greedy, and I also thought I might like one for breakfast because I'm one of those people that will eat pizza off my floor. I don't get sick from pizza, well, except for eating at Whole Foods and getting sick. But I leave food around on counters, and I don't refrigerate, and I'm perfectly fine. So I bought 2 of these, and I was so excited with 2 different flavors, And I got back to my hotel room, and I sat down, and I got a show on the TV, and I'm all comfy, and I took a couple bites, and went, oh my gosh, the worst stuff I've ever eaten in my life. Sorry, Chicagoans. Just don't like Chicago pizza. I'm a New York pizza and a Naples pizza girl. Those are the 2 places I eat my pizza. And Chicago pizza, I know it's well loved, but man, I couldn't stand it. So I had breakfast in the hotel, restaurant. So, but anyway, Florence says Ted Kaczynski. And why? Why Ted Kaczynski? Do you think he's smart? Is he really? Because, first of all, he's sort of a serial killer, but he's a serial bomber. Basically, the FBI botched this thing into the ground because Ted Kaczynski wrote that long letter. His brother went, yo, that's my brother Ted, because they handled the case wrong. They could have figured out who it was way sooner, but they just didn't do a very good job at what they should have done. And Ted Kaczynski writing a whole letter like that, which somebody's going to be able to identify the writing, isn't considered, I think, a very smart thing to do. So yes, he was a scientist, so he was smart, but I don't think he was the difference between being a smart person and being a smart killer, 2 different things. And he says, Golden State Killer was active near my hometown when I was in high school. Really? Wait, where did you go to high school, Annie? Why do I not? Okay, I don't know this part of your history. Where did you go to high school? Please tell me, Annie. Annie's gone to get something to drink. I can't get her back. Okay, maybe there's a lag. This is YouTube. And I'm not sure if there's weird lag times with when people type stuff in, but I'd like to know you went to high school. That's creepy. It's funny. Somebody pointed out that we have this concept that we just hear about all these serial killers today because of all the the networks. This Nancy Grace and every network these days who does shows about crime nonstop. But serial killers were pretty prolific back in the 60s and 70s. And as you can see, even back into the 1800s, they were there. It's just they didn't get the publicity nationwide. They did eventually get publicity. Certainly there were newspapers, and the information did go into the newspapers eventually. Certainly when Jack the Ripper was running around in London, the word did get out by papers, and it became quite a tabloid thing. So, yeah, serial killers have been around for a long time, and different kinds of versions of serial homicide have also been around. I can't get my answer from Annie here. I do want to mention that I am going. I found this book on my shelf, and again, I don't usually keep true crime books, and I found this one, Hush Little Babies, and this is the one about Darley Routier. Routier. I can't say the woman's name. I want to say Routier every time. Routier. I want to say Routier, but it's Routier. I think it should be French, but anyway, I call her Darley because I can't pronounce her name. Darley, and I don't usually keep books unless I think there's some value to them. I didn't actually have any notes in here though. But anyway, on Sunday, I'm going to do that story, that case. Oh, Annie says, really? You went to high school in Sacramento? I did not know that. See, I learned something about you new tonight. You're a California girl? I don't know why I always thought of you as an East Coaster, but you're really a California girl. Oh my God. Yes, I have been in Sacramento. I have been. I was just there recently, as a matter of fact, because I went out to see my son. I flew out that direction and did a West Coast trip with him through Northern California, Oregon, and Washington State. And it was really cool. So I had fun. I need another trip, I think. But anyway, after doing Amanda Knox this Sunday, I said to myself, I do not want to do another real controversial case for at least a few weeks because, you get tired of pulling the arrows out of your neck, and getting killed for everything. And then having people all, I'm not going to watch her stuff anymore. Unsubscribe. But somehow I'm doing Darley. It's like, I must be a masochist. I mean, I'm going to do Darley. And again, we have the whole group that says she's totally innocent, whole group that says she's guilty of sin. And, I did have my opinions on her years ago, and now I have to review everything. I'm going to review all the evidence to determine where I think I stand on this case. And I will stand here right this moment and tell you I got a lot to review to absolutely make my determinations on what I think. And again, I wish people would understand when I do these things that the point of doing them is a learning process. And I watched. If you see the upcoming show, I have Dr. Grande. You'll see a picture of Dr. Grande on the. Oh, I haven't put it up yet. You won't see that until tomorrow when I put it up. Okay. So anyway, I've gotten I did the picture, and the picture says. Let me see. What does the picture say? Let me find it because you'll see it early. Where is it? Okay. See, it says, here it is. See, you can't see it. All right, you can see that. Anyway, it says, should Darley Routier have been convicted? That's the name of it. Should Darley Routier have been convicted? And here we have Dr. Grande, who I recommend quite often. I don't always agree with him, but he has a thing, and his thing was called silly string confession silly string conviction because of the scene Darley Routier, Darley, after her two children were murdered, her two little boys, and she had some injuries to herself, and they gave a birthday party after the boys died, and during that birthday party outside, she did silly string, and then she was like chewing gum and that did not make people think she was innocent of killing her two children. And so a lot of the concept is that she was convicted because of that video, because people thought it was such inappropriate behavior, that she was laughing and chewing gum and making, sort of fun stuff up there. And they thought she got convicted unfairly. So Dr. Grande does a show on her, and I find his determination interesting. And so I want to look at his determination, look at what I think, and talk about one of the reasons, some issues surrounding that. So I'm not going to tell you exactly what the issues are yet, but it has to do with court systems and juries. Because you know me and court systems and juries. And so, but I have a lot of research to do to go back over everything, because even though I've dealt with these cases for many years, over the years, I can't remember. I can't remember the details of the blood spatter pattern, or what actually occurred. So I have to go back to square one and review everything in order to do a show that's worth anything. But that's going to be this Sunday, and so 2 weeks in a row, I just made my life hell. So maybe next week I should do one on that Bell lady. You know what I mean? And everybody will like me because I'm not going to have anything good to say about her. Or, we already know she's a serial killer, so there'll be no controversy. So I may just have to do that. Lisa says, I really like his channel. Yeah, I it's an interesting thing. I recommend, there's only so far a few channels I recommend for crime. Dr. Peter Hyatt is one of them, and Dr. Grande is another one. And there are some times that I do not agree with either of the gentlemen. And maybe they don't agree with me. And I would say, I don't think you came to the right conclusion there. Amanda Knox and I did not come to the same conclusion as did Grande. But that doesn't mean I don't respect what they do. It doesn't mean I don't think they have interesting things to offer. And I believe one should listen to different people to learn from them, to see, because he's coming Dr. Grande comes from things from a very psychological point of view. And I think that's very valuable, but sometimes I think it's not enough. And that's what I'm going to point out with probably the Darley Routier case. I look at psychology, but I also look at crime scene evidence, both physical and behavioral. And that's not something Dr. Grande does. So to me, I'm bringing everything together, not just one portion of it. So I think sometimes these things can be a little skewed if you don't understand the rest of it. So I think and if you're a detective, if you're a prosecutor, if you're a jury, you should understand the totality of everything and not just focus in like silly string, silly string conviction. Oh, okay. She did act inappropriately. I will say that. I mean, it was bizarre. It was not quite something a normal person would do when their two sons were just butchered. However, some people point out, well, people act differently when they're under severe stress and they're in shock. They act, people go to funerals and break up laughing. That's true. They do. I'm one of those people that probably laugh, because I get the giggles at bad places. I know I'm probably one of those people. But if you studied enough parents of murdered children, you see things that maybe other people don't see, and some things you can't totally explain away that way. However, on one hand, that's on one hand. On the other hand, no one should be convicted because they acted weird at one particular moment in time. 911 calls are very, very valuable. They tell us a lot, but you shouldn't get convicted just off the 911 call. So it's everything together, all the evidence together. And that's something sometimes I think certain people they might not be presenting all of that evidence or looking at just this aspect. And therefore, I might disagree with their conclusions because I'm looking at the rest of the information. So, but I'm okay with, I say I like people to check out other channels and things that have value and good stuff out there that people should be taking a look at. Michelle said, Peter Hyatt did a statement analysis today on Chloe. Oh, the Australia one. Yes. The missing 4-year-old girl from camping in Australia. Yes. I have her on my list. The one who went missing out of the tent, if I'm correct. That's I've seen a little bit about that one. I have not seen his statement analysis. I'll have to take a look and see what I think of his statement analysis on that. So very, very, very interesting. So, yeah. So anyway, I hope you all will be here on Sunday. Please put your protective arms around me so people don't get mad at me. Yes, from the tent, allegedly. Yeah. Well, gotta watch it when you take your kids camping. I mean, camping is an interesting place in general. You're in the middle of really a large expanse of empty land, and anything can happen to a child who wanders off, who may actually be attacked by an animal, who may be kidnapped by some camper who might happen to be in the area. But it's also a really great place to lose a kid that you don't want to keep around. And then, depending on how well you lose the kid, how much time you've got to lose the child. My opinion has always been this, and I hate her sleeping bag. Her sleeping bag is missing too. No, the old dingo, yeah, dingo, yeah, the dingo dog. Your sleeping bag is missing too. Huh? Interesting. I'm gonna have to look it up. But one of the things I pointed out before, and it's not. I'm not trying to tell people how to get rid of the children, but the easiest thing to do, I swear to God, the easiest thing is you plan your camping trip to a remote location, but you dump the body of your child halfway there. And then you put your tent up, you get in your tent, you put the thing, the sleeping bag down and all the things, and then your kid goes missing. And you call the police and say, I don't know, we were sitting at the picnic bench, we went to sleep, the child went missing in the night. And then they search the whole bloody area that you're in, and she's nowhere near that area. Nowhere near that area. She's she's 50, 100 miles away in another pile of forest, and that's, that's a kind of easy thing to do. And so, I wonder how many times it might have happened. But I will have to take a look at that case, because that is kind of blowing up in the media right now, because it is a curious case. And so one wonders what did happen to Chloe. I will check out Peter's thing and all that. So, at any rate, I'm going to close out for tonight, and I will see you here on Sunday at 3 p.m. It'll be Halloween. I checked with my daughter. I said, "Is my granddaughter doing a Halloween party that I'm supposed to be at?" And she goes, "Yeah, not this year." I'm like, "All right, then I'll do my show on Sunday." But anyway, yes, hugs to everybody, and be here next week to protect me, because I don't actually know my entire take on the Darley case yet, but somebody's going to not like me. Annie says, I only camp in yurts with friends. Isn't that a great way to camp? I mean, yeah, a five friend yurt. That was a great way to camp. Glad you were here, Florence, and glad everybody was here today that came. And so much fun. And you want to see it one more time? Really great. Here it goes. Really, really, really. Oh, there. Okay. Pass it along to all your friends. I want 1.5 million views. Support the channel. Good night or good day, everyone, Michelle says. Good night. Good night, Christina. Oh, goodness gracious. I'll see everybody next time. So, bye, Lisa.